Hello and good afternoon to you wherever you're social distancing, and welcome to this webinar on the skills that employers seek in 2021. This is part of TARGETjob's webinar series where we've been looking at various issues around job hunting during the pandemic. I'm Matt, I'm going to be your TARGETjob's editor and host for the day, and I'm joined by Grace and Chris, who are from Cummins and Bree, respectively. I'll get them to introduce themselves in a second. I just want to set a couple of quick ground rules. Please feel free to ask questions at absolutely any time. You can do that by using the question pane on your right. But all I ask is if you see a question that you want answered, please do upvote that question so it reaches the top of the list. Once we get to the end of the set talking points that we've got, we'll come back to those questions and we'll work our way down in order of popularity. So please do keep upvoting those questions as we go. I'm going to go clockwise on my screen, and I realize it may be different for everybody, but I'm going to start with Grace from Cummins. If you could just introduce yourself, let us know a little bit about where you work and what you do.
That's great, thank you, Matt. So I'm Grace Gill and I'm the Talent Acquisition Coordinator at Cummins. I would normally be based out of our Huddersfield site, but I've been working from home since March last year. We do have sites all across the UK, and I work within the corporate function. So part of my role is to help facilitate the recruitment of our placement students and graduates. So I kind of cover all of our sites across UK and Europe. So it's not been too traumatic for me working from home. I was kind of only ever hosted at Huddersfield anyway. I covered all the sites. So yeah, I'm looking forward to having a chat with you today and sharing a little bit of wisdom. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Grace. And yeah, it's nice when you can actually get used to the working from home. I think we were just talking before this and saying it will be nice to get back to being able to see people and do things again. Chris, perhaps you could tell us a little bit about where you work and what you do as well.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Matt. Hi, everyone. My name's Chris Pigeon. I'm the head of resourcing at 3 Telecommunications in the UK. And yeah, I'm just here to answer any questions, hopefully give you some insight with regards to the market at the moment for graduates, roles and what's out there at the moment. So looking forward to it. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Chris. We just want to start off by asking both of our panelists whether they're hiring for graduate vacancies at the moment and what sort of roles they're hiring for. I know there's a lot of negative headlines out there at the moment, and it can feel a little bit, difficult when you're out there. You know that it's a competitive environment. But I just want to assure you that when we've had employers taking part in these webinars, it's because they are still looking for people and they are still hiring. So I'm going to start with you, Grace, again. If you could perhaps tell us a little bit about what you're hiring for or what placements you have open at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were kind of flummoxed by the pandemic, just like everybody else was last year. But one thing that I really want to reassure everybody listening is that we haven't changed any of our recruitment practices. We are still hiring for the same quantity of roles. In fact, we're actually hiring for more roles this cycle than we did last year. So we have hired about 130 different placement roles, and we do have a handful of graduate vacancies still available. So we certainly haven't kind of cut any of our vacancies because of COVID. So I hope that's kind of reassuring and feels quite promising for some of you that are still looking for roles.
Thanks, Grace. And Chris, is it the same for you? You're still looking for people?
Yeah, it's a great story from Cummins and Grace that obviously they're still looking to take on so many people. I mean, fundamentals are, guys, there are less graduate opportunities out in the market. That's a fact, right? And I think it's being really tailored to obviously what we're going after. I mean, yeah, at 3, we're only a smaller scale versus some other companies, but we've got 40 graduate opportunities this year that are going live on the 1st of March. So yeah, we've got 40 spread across technology. We've got a large amount of roles in technology, which we'll talk about later if you have questions. We've got some in the commercial space, in the sales space, the marketing space, HR. So quite a broadness. They're still out there, right? They're still out there. You just got to find them.
Thanks, Chris. And it's nice that we've got we've got a diverse range of companies on the panel. With you've got more sort of engineering and distribution, but you've also mentioned marketing and HR. We've got telecoms and tech. I'll start with Chris this time and just say when you get a graduate who's coming to you for a role, who's applying for a role. I'm just going to ask Grace, would you mind just muting? Because I think that my voice is coming out through your speakers. Sorry, thank you. I just want to say, what are the sort of general skills that you look for when you get a graduate come to you at the moment? And are the skills that you're looking for now, are they different from prior to the pandemic, or prior to hiring prior to hiring before the pandemic?
No different, right? No different. That's a good question, right? Because people think different world, different skills. It's rubbish, right? We want people who want to come to 3 and want to make a difference, right? And we want you to come and work in an area of 3 or in Cummins or wherever it may be where you may apply, right? Applying for something that you're passionate about, right? Oh my God, I want to do that. I really want that opportunity because I love doing that, right? And it really plays to what I do. So if you are passionate about something and you want to go for it, that is it. We just want people who, just want it, right?
But what would you, I don't know, what you said, you got 40 placements that are open. Maybe if you could just give us an example of the sort of, some of the more general skills that you would look for on some of these placements. So for perhaps for certain aspects, you might need commercial awareness for your commercial team, for example. What could you give us an example of some of the things that you would look for when someone's applying to you?
I think the most valuable is mindset, right? We want people with a growth mindset. We want people with a positive mindset, right? Obviously working in recruitment for so many years, it's always that thing, isn't it, about whether it, is it skills or attitude? In some roles, you always want skill. You want a baseline of technical skill. I used to work at Dyson before. I used to run recruitment at Dyson from a technical and engineering point of view. And obviously from there, it was about, you had to have a technical capability, right? But the cherry on top, and in other roles which are more generalist, it's all about attitude. Right, it's all about attitude. So, for example, in our technology roles, of which we've probably got 18 to 20 technology spaces, we're not actually going to go out and say you must come from these courses. Anyone can apply for any of the opportunities that we've got. We will suggest what courses might best lean towards what we're offering, right? But in this day and age, we do not want to cut people's opportunities down. If you do, I did a drama degree, right? And I went recruitment in telco. But if I have a real passion for analysis and stuff like that, or I've got a flair for marketing, why shouldn't I want to go for a marketing role, right? And in order to do that, I just need to be passionate and want to go for it. So we are open to whoever wants to apply, but we just want people to really think about wanting it.
Thanks, Chris. I think, and there's a really important point that we've come across a couple of times before, is even if you're coming from a technical background or you're coming from a technical degree, it's the cherry on top is the other skills that you have. It's the attitude that you've got. It's the way that you interact with people, teamwork, communication, whatever you want to call it. It's sometimes those softer skills that can really just put the icing on your already impressive qualifications.
And I just went on that as well. For those of you that I've got a lot of people in my team who are introverted as well. So those of you who are on the call who are introverts and think, well, that puts me at a disadvantage. It's not about being an extrovert, right? It's about showing analytical skills. It's about showing different qualities outside of the degree that you've done, which adds value.
I think that's the same for a lot of jobs as well, is where you say, you could be introverted, you could be extrovert, but it takes all sorts at the end of the day to make something work. So Grace, what sort of skills would you say that you're looking for at the moment? Has anything changed since the pandemic for you in the skills that you're looking for?
So I'm so glad Chris has said that, because we are exactly the same. So we are not changing anything that we're looking for. We're not asking for any different skills. We look for functional skills relevant to the role, or skills that are easily transferable. So as we're quite a large engineering organisation, a lot of our roles, are within the engineering function. So we now encourage all STEM students to apply, because we want to make the process as inclusive as we possibly can. And we recognise that students from different degree backgrounds can bring different perspectives. So we just want students to be able to demonstrate that they can have an understanding of the basic scientific principles that are applicable to engineering, and we can teach the rest. So as long as, interview, you can show that you understand the fundamentals, you don't have to know the ins and outs of a turbocharger, for example. So again, going kind of back to what Chris said, we're also looking for students that have got a really good attitude, and you must have a good fit for our Cummins core values. That's something that we just can't teach. So we can kind of teach the technical stuff, but you need to have that right attitude, that right mindset. You need to fit within our values, fit within our culture. So that's something really important, and something that I think employers are putting a big emphasis on now, So that's definitely a tip for when you're thinking about employing to any company. You know, make sure that you're a good fit for them and they're a good fit for you. You know, try and do that matching process before you even think about applying.
Thanks, Grace. It's a really useful tip there, I think, as well. It's to research the employer that you're going to, and to look at the skills that you've got, and look at what the employer's looking for, look at their values, look at their kind of core messaging, and to say, right, how has what I've got and what I've done fit with this? That's something that I think a lot of people don't necessarily do. They think, well, I'm going to make an application because I've got my degree and it's fine, it's in the right area. But people also want to see that you're actually genuinely interested. They want to see that you've spent time looking through past projects. They want to see that you've matched up what you do with what they're looking for. Just is there something that you would say? So we've established, Grace, that you're looking for engineering is the discipline that you're predominantly sort of recruiting graduates for. What sort of what's the most valuable thing on top of the engineering skills? What's the most valuable thing would you say to an applicant that's coming to Cummins that's a skill, that's like something that you've learned? I don't know whether that's teamwork or communication or management or leadership, or what is it that you think would be one of the most valuable things you'd be looking for?
So we do have numerous engineering roles, but we do hire into all our other functions as well. So we hire into kind of HR, marketing, sales, project coordination. We've got a whole host of functions. So I guess if you're looking for an engineering role, you need to have some, kind of STEM background. For any of our other functions, it's exactly as Chris mentioned. We kind of guide you as to what appropriate degrees might look like, but we're not kind of saying, like just as Chris said, if you want to apply for marketing, you must have a marketing degree. That's not the case. You need to show that you're passionate, that you've got those core values. I guess to kind of answer your question, we sometimes find when we're recruiting students that they can sometimes put a big emphasis on leadership. And we do hear that come across quite a lot in interviews, that students talk a lot about, projects that they've led or how they want to be the next leader. That's not necessarily something that we place a big importance on. We need students or graduates to come into the company and be good listeners, good collaborators. We need you to fit into our teams. And that's not to say that we don't need you to lead some projects or have responsibility, but we don't need everybody to be the next leader. So we need people that can come in and share good ideas, listen to the team and really do lots of collaborative work. Because we're we're a global organisation, you're going to have to work with teams in the UK, teams in Europe, teams globally. So you need to be able to kind of adapt and listen to everybody's requirements. So that's something that I just want to emphasise to everybody. Just be mindful and kind of think when you're doing your applications and you're interviewing. That's maybe a watch out. Think about how you can display those teamwork and collaborative skills.
Thanks, Grace. I think that's a good caveat for anybody out there who is trying to get leadership on their CV. Is you do still have to remember that you need to listen and you do need to work with people, and you're not coming in as the CEO on the first day. You are coming in to an entry level job. You're going to progress, but that kind of, there's no need to take charge immediately. Chris, would you say it's the same for you? What's the thing that you most value on top of the technical skill sets? We mentioned introverts and extroverts. What is it that you look for sort of universally that you would say is one of the most valuable traits or skills?
I think it's mindset, right? Back to that chat again, which is around, it's the mindset of someone. It's the fact that we want initiative. I think there's lots of words within mindset, right? But I think if you could give two, it would be, I agree with Grace, you don't have too many leaders, right? Because obviously leadership in different ways, right? But from a mindset point of view, I think initiative, right? You're going to come in to do a paid role in a very large corporate environment with people who have got much more experience than you. And everyone knows that. No one's expecting miracles from you, right? But the ones that do really well and really enjoy it are the ones with initiative, right? Oh, I see a problem there. Oh, why don't I go and take that away and see if I can do something about it? Next thing, in 2 weeks later, I found a solution for that. What do you think about this? Oh my God. And that comes with confidence. I get that. So, initiative is there. I think another one at the moment that all of you on the call today need right now is positivity, right? Because I'm always a glass half full kind of guy. But I think before you even look to apply, and just in the situation we are today, you must be positive, right? Good things happen to positive people. I'm a big believer in it, okay? And as I said to you, there are less opportunities out there at the moment. But if you're positive and you apply yourself right, then opportunity does present itself.
Thanks. I think that's a really useful one, and probably one of the most difficult ones to maintain, I think, in the current environment. But I like the way that you've talked about kind of initiative, thinking for yourself. For those of you out there who are listening to this, start listing things you've done where you've actually had to show initiative, where you've had to problem solve. And the growth mindset you mentioned, that kind of positivity, how you deal with negative events. I think at the moment, this is the perfect time to demonstrate it, because everything is one big negative event at the moment. So it's, what are you doing to keep yourself up to standards? Like even just in your own home, making sure that you tidy up here and there, making sure you have a project that you work on every now and then that takes your mind off of the general stresses of the situation. I think it's one of the best times that you can really develop those skills to sort of survive and to grow when the odds really are against you. The world outside is against you.
Yeah, on that point, I think you're right. I think it's examples of where you've gone above and beyond, right? So when you're going to go through all your assessments in the future, those people you apply for, you're probably going to go through the standard bits. I think there's obviously a difference, but you're going to at some point have a telephone call or a video call, and you're at some point going to have an assessment center. And in that, it's around showing evidence, right, where you've gone above and beyond, because it shows and proves initiative. It shows and proves that you're going to kind of bring those behaviors into the workplace. So, and also you've got to differentiate yourself from everyone else that's got the same degree, maybe the same level course. It's difficult, right?
And it's how you articulate it, I think, as well. Even if you have decided that you're going to binge watch certain parts of Netflix, you don't have to tell people that's what I've just been laying on the sofa for 3 months. It's been, you can say, actually, I've been constructively looking at, I don't know, I've been watching documentaries about a certain subject because I'm trying to broaden my knowledge because of a project I'm working on. Try to make things practical rather than just binge watch Netflix, which is the answer to everything at the moment. I think at the moment, we've established that it is quite difficult to gain experience. It is quite difficult to gain skills because there's a lot less meeting in person. There's a lot less of an ability to get out there. How would you both sort of recommend that graduates develop skills in the current environment, in the current climate, when it is maybe harder to get out to do placements? It's maybe harder to be as proactive. There are less groups. There are less opportunities to be in different locations. What would you recommend that people are working on or looking at the moment? Grace, perhaps if I can start with you for this one.
Yeah, I guess it depends what kind of stage you're at in your studies. So if you're still studying at university, just try to continue to engage with your learnings and take advantage of any kind of virtual sessions above and beyond your course. There's all kinds of employability sessions. I know many different universities work with many different employers on, workshops, CV sessions, employability skills sessions. So really take advantage of those. I think they can be extremely valuable, particularly if you're doing it with an employer that you're interested in applying for anyway. It can only benefit you to attend those sorts of things. The other kind of tip is get involved in your community or in volunteering or university projects, providing it's obviously in a COVID safe manner, as we really value candidates who can take the time to do some volunteering work within the community. We see that as a really great demonstration of our core values, and that really helps us see that you're a good kind of match for Cummins. Obviously, opportunities like that are much more limited now. So, any employee that works at Cummins, whether you're a placement, a student, a permanent employee, we give all, everybody 4 hours each year to work within the community. That's in paid time, and you can get involved in any kind of projects. So that's something that we have ongoing each year, and we kind of look for candidates that meet that and have the same interests. So anything that you can do that shows that you're going above and beyond kind of just your studies is really important. And I think just because we're in a virtual environment at the moment, everything seems to have shifted online. So, get the kind of apps on your phone where you can maybe start learning a new language, or there's just all sorts that you can do now. You just have to just get a bit creative with it and think, right, maybe how I would have done something previously. How can I make the best of this situation now and still develop? So just get out there, and there's so much content online now where you can still develop. So just try and do something a little bit extra. Employers will pick up on it and will notice it.
Thank you. And if you are out there and you're listening to this and you're attending webinars like this, where you're trying to improve your employability, you're trying to learn more about what it is that it takes to get a job, use those sessions, do put them, on your CV in your skills section. Volunteering as well. I've mentioned a couple of times when we've done webinars in the past, it is harder obviously to volunteer in the sense that you can't go out. But there are, the NHS at the very beginning of the pandemic was looking for people to volunteer for this NHS SAM. As far as I know, that's still running. That's, you could be delivering food to people or just, keeping people company on the phone. There are websites that you can do it if you're not part of a Facebook group or another social media group. There's websites like Nextdoor, which I see an awful lot of volunteering opportunities. Hello, we need to, so this elderly couple down the street need food delivery. Is anybody free between this time and this time on a Monday? Be proactive, get out there. So really, really useful advice there, I think, really. And some of those, the web apps, there's a number of language learning, things like Duolingo. It's never, I don't think maybe you will be fluent by the end of the pandemic, depends on how long this goes on for. But it's a great way to pick up some basics of the language, I think. It's just really, really useful tips. Thank you, Grace. Chris, what would you recommend that people be doing at the moment to improve their employability? What skills should they be trying to gather?
I was getting a bit of feedback on that again. Sorry about that. I don't think I was getting that. I think if you want to if you're trying to prove a case that you are proactive and you have initiative, you haven't done it by now, you're a bit late, right? Because it's ingrained in you as a person, or you've learned it a while back. So I think it's a bit late, if I'm honest, to try and do that. If I'm being honest, I think that what we want to see, I think, taking advantage of the pandemic over the last year, is people who have adapted, right? So examples of adaptation, examples where, for example, you started your own vlog, you started your own YouTube channel, you've really used technology to enhance your everyday, whether it be small with your friends or whether it be massive, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if it failed, if it succeeded, it doesn't matter. Examples where you've used initiative to adapt, where you've said, you know what, here's a pandemic and I haven't been able to see people, I haven't been able to do charity work, which is a bloody brilliant one normally. So as a result, I'm going to pivot and I'm going to use technology to enhance myself, and I've kept myself active by giving something back that way, or by entertaining myself or learning, like you say. That's what I'd like to see. That would be great.
Thanks, Chris. That's really interesting. And I mean, I think there's a lot you get from that as well. Like you're talking about starting your own YouTube channel, or imagine you're starting your own Twitch stream, something like that. You learn a lot from doing that. You're broadcasting to the public, you're doing public speaking. You're dealing with different systems of technology, so you have to adapt to those. Chances are, if you're running a stream and you have any kind of comment section, you will be dealing with difficult people or dealing with some form of, comment that may go against your core value system, or may just challenge things that you've said. Like that's a really interesting way to say. I would just say that I don't think that it's ever too late to start trying to adapt. I'm saying maybe if you're applying for a job next week, maybe you should have done something by now. But if this is your first kind of employability session and you're just starting out and you're just kind of having to deal with this, maybe it's just come on your radar lately, then you can always make that change. I think there's you will need time in order to build up a backlog of skills, a kind of profile. But yeah, I'd say like it's never too late to start adapting and to start sort of pushing yourself out of your comfort.
But Matt, on that point, I think you are passionate about something you're not, right? And you're not off your own back going to go out and do something you're passionate about because it's forced. You don't enjoy it. You're probably not be very good at it. And it just looks false. It doesn't land well. When I ask, right, tell me about something where you've used your initiative in the last 6 months, and you tell me something you just did to help with an interview or something, it just doesn't feel genuine. And I think that the key answer here is it hasn't got to be about, I don't know, examples are about more out there, YouTube or Twitch or whatever you talked about, but more about, you might have created a circuit board, right? You might have done some coding, which did something, no one may have seen it, but you did it. What did it do? What was the outcome? What did you learn from that, right? That's all great stuff, but you can't be something you're passionate about. Yeah, no,
I see what you mean, and I mean, sometimes it is finding that passion is part of the journey as well. You've got to go out there and you actually have to try a bunch of different things. You may think you're passionate about something, but then try it and go, oh goodness, I wish I started this. But at least you learn. You're like, okay, I realized this wasn't for me when I found it absolutely horrifying. Yeah. So I'll start with you for the next question we've got, Chris, which is when would you expect to see evidence of the kind of skills that people are developing during an application process? Is it something that you would want to see outright on the CV, on a covering letter? Is it something that you'd only get to an interview, or maybe through an assessment center? When would you expect to start seeing people demonstrating their skills to you?
I don't want to see any cover letters, right? For me, it's a personal thing, right? For different companies. You know, our process, we're going live with all of our roles, all 40 roles, 1st of March, week after next. And those applications are open for a whole month, right? So for the month of March, we are open for anyone to apply for anything they're passionate about across our business for a 2-year graduate program. We're not going to ask for a cover letter, right? Because obviously, you know, making sure that we're a diverse employer as well. We're not going to get any CVs, right? The CV, you have to apply with a CV, and that CV will be looked at later down the line, and it will be really picked apart and made sure that there's evidence there. But we're going to obviously ask you when you apply to go through automated assessments, right? And that's going to be around adaptation, logical learning. It's going to be around different things that are linked to our culture and our values. And we're going to ask you through those robotics questions over and over again to make sure we get a pattern back from you about whether you are the right fit and culture for 3, right? Obviously, if you are, we can give you a lot back and you'll really enjoy working here. So it's a both-way thing, right? And only at that point, we'll be reaching out to those people that have performed well there. And we're going to be doing a video interview. And at that point, we might look at the CV, right? But again, they're going to be about questions we want to know. All the things that Matt and Grace just been talking about. You know, how have you used your initiative recently? What have you been doing? What are you passionate about? What are you bad at? You know, just trying to get a feel for you and find where you are genuine, what genuine space you are in. So I think that that's kind of my answer, if that's all right.
I think you probably just won a popularity contest by saying we don't want to see covering letters, because I've never met anybody that enjoys.
That's good. Yeah, it won't be read. It won't be read. Don't do it. And listen, a lot of companies do use it, and it's very, very important. So I'm not trying in any way belittle any other way of working, but at 3, we don't want it.
No, and it sounds like that you test it in a different way anyway. You've got an application form, and that's when you're going to start asking the questions. You're expecting to see examples of when people have displayed certain skills that you're looking for. So it's an initial thing. It's not the sort of thing that waits till interview. It's something that you already need to start building on when you make that very first contact with 3. Grace, how about you? When would you start to expect to see evidence of skills when someone's applying to you? What stage of the application process?
So we run quite a similar process to the one that Chris mentioned. So CVs are really important, but we kind of do the basic checks up front to make sure you are actually eligible for the role, and then we put you through the psychometric testing, and then we will kind of scrutinise the CVs at that point. So much the same kind of process as what Chris talked about, and the reason why we've introduced that is to take away any bias that might be in that recruitment process. So we do it all within our recruitment team now. We want to make this recruitment process as fair and as inclusive as we possibly can. So we don't send CVs out to kind of hiring managers to review. We do it all within our team. It's all kind of done with pre-automated tests to make it as fair as we can possibly make it. And then later down the line, when we get the outcomes of those tests, we'll then really go through the candidate CVs, and we're looking for, the things that we've talked about. Are you a good match for our values? What have you done over and above your studies? We get a lot of CVs, and they're all laid out in very similar formats. You've got your personal details at the top. You've got your modules that you're studying at university and predicted grades. I see the bit below that as the most important bit, the experiences that you've gained. And what I don't want to see on a CV is just a bullet point list of kind of activities or hobbies that you've got. You might have some amazing hobbies. You might have achieved a high grade in piano, or you might be the leader of a sports team or a club. That's amazing. Tell me about it. Don't just list it as a bullet point. Take the time to write a sentence or two about how those activities have shaped you as a person and how those activities show that you meet our values. So rather than trying to list as many things as you possibly can on there, I would maybe condense it, but go into a little bit of detail about a couple of really good things. So we'd expect to see that at the CV stage. And then when you go to an interview, which have obviously all been virtual over the last recruitment cycle, then we would like some details and we want you to go into more depth. We want to hear about examples. So we interview based on, competency questions. So we want examples. So it's always handy to think of different scenarios where you can demonstrate different things. So don't, regurgitate the same example over and over again. We want you to be able to show us that you've had different experiences, that you can reflect on them and learn from them. So that's where we would expect more detail kind of as the, the process, as we get further through the recruitment process.
Thanks, Grace. And I think that segues quite nicely into the next thing we wanted to talk about, which is how, whether it's on an application form or whether it's on a CV, how to present these skills, how you'd like to see them. And you mentioned it was, if you've got on there, like you've been in part of the football team or you've been captain of the football team, don't just tell me that you've been captain of the football team, tell me about it. And I thought maybe that's quite an interesting one to start with. Like, how would you expect someone to be trying to show their skills through explaining something like that? So on Target Jobs, we use the STAR method. We talk about it, if anybody out there is watching, put in STAR method and Target Jobs into Google, it'll take you straight to the articles that talk about it. But Grace, how is it that would you like to talk a little bit about what you'd like to see if someone's telling you about their experiences?
So yeah, we don't kind of expect to see any particular method. We appreciate every CV is unique, so it's interesting to see how, candidates lay things out differently. I guess I would give maybe less information about the modules that you're studying at university. So sometimes we see students that they'll list all the modules and then go into detail of what you've learned. We kind of already have a feel for that because we see a lot of similar CVs. But if you've done a project in one of the modules at university that's interesting, maybe call that out and then say, I participated in, whatever project. Maybe you were the leader on that project, or maybe you were a really good collaborator on that project. Did the project go wrong? Tell us about it if it did, but tell us why it went wrong and what you would maybe do next time. And we don't expect tons of details, just a sentence or two. And I appreciate your CV needs to be kept quite condensed. So you might be getting told, don't waffle on the CV, but then I'm telling you to give us detail. So it's just getting a good balance. And it's going back to what I said about try not to list a million different things, maybe pick some really important things, highlight it in bold, underline it, however you want to make it stand out. But then next to it, tell us a couple of things that you've learned from that and how it relates back to the employer's core values, because we do kind of assess for that as well. So, one of our core values is caring. So we might be looking for, in your CV, if you've told us that you do some volunteering, we want a bit of information on that. Well, how did you show caring through this volunteering that you've done? Are you genuine? Are you a genuine caring person? Can we see that through the CV? So however you want to display it is fine. But always, like I said, bear in mind the employer's core values and try to keep to the really key points, and don't just list too many different things. Tell us the good stuff from a couple of projects or experiences.
Thanks, Grace. And I think that's, again, really useful advice. And it's about prioritizing your CV a lot there. Like degree is important. Be very proud of your achievements. Definitely something you need to have. But make sure the things that the employer is looking for are at the top, that they stand out to people. And I've said this time and time again, you're tailoring your CV to an employer. You need to have the things, don't, if they get halfway down the page and they haven't seen the things that are most relevant, you need to move them up. They need to be at the top, and whether it's experiences you've had at university, if it's caring, it might even be something that's come from personal experiences that you've had or volunteering experiences. Maybe those need to be the priority at the top of the CV, and the degree that you're going to have if you're applying for that role is going to be on there anywhere anyway. But thank you. It was really, really helpful kind of CV organization tips and how to present your skills. Chris, so I mean, what would you be looking for? You said you've got like a fairly sort of flexible application system. How would you expect to see skills put in, or are you asking questions and you expect the responses to be shaped in a certain way?
I think skills are your skills, right? They're inside you. They are things that you have. And then a CV is a piece of paper which tells me before meeting you what your skills are, right? So you want to get those skills quite aggressive at the top and to be relevant. But we talk about STAR. That's around the question, isn't it? STAR. situation, task, action, result. All it is, guys, STAR is just a way of helping you be concise, right? And that's my biggest thing I would say to you is that, you know, I want to work with cool, fun people who are talented, right? That's what we're trying to find here. We want to find out the funnest people to work with who are talented. And then you really, if you accept an offer from us, it's because you really want to work here. And that's chemistry of both sides wanting to work together. And it's just, it's a great place to start. And the challenge with interviews and stuff, you get so nervous. I've been there, right? You get so nervous for something that you want. You don't really show your true self. You don't really show your true sense of fun. And also, you go into corporate environments you've never been in before, and you think, oh my God, I've got to be really serious. If I'm a bit, you know, relaxed, then they're going to think I'm a joker. But it's just not like that. You just got to be yourself. The biggest advice I can give to you is just, I know you're nervous, right? But we want you just to be yourselves and relax, right? Half the managers as well, they'll probably be nervous as well, so don't worry about it. But just relax and just have fun. And I think that's really hard to say. You probably hear it loads and loads of times. But if you don't do that, that energy, that stuff, those skills that you've got on the paper, are not going to come through at the assessment. You're not going to get the job, right? So for me, STAR is all about structuring your answer. And all that is someone asks you a question, you know you've done it, there are a couple of things you've got to do. Make sure you know your answer, okay? So go into assessments, whether it be a video interview or an assessment, go onto the careers page of this website. As Grace says, quite rightly, look up their values, right? You are 85% guaranteed at some point you are going to get asked questions aligned to the company's values, right? So what I do is I write down the values of the company, generally 3 or 5, roughly, right? And I look at my CV and I go, what example from what I've done in my life best links as an answer to each of those values? So as is collaboration, one is collaboration, right? You think about where you've really collaborated, right? That example, just write it down. Have a little note or something, just go collaboration, just write down that example. So when you have a question, they talk about it, you're straight in, I'm structured, I know I'm going to give this answer. I'm going to talk about this. This is best aligned to collaboration. If you don't do that, they'll ask you a question. You spend time going, oh my God, it feels like an hour's gone by. It's only 10 seconds. And then you just panic and you go, and something comes out, it's not structured, it doesn't come across well, and you blow it. So preparation is key to understanding a company's values, okay? And concise structure is important. And in order to get that across, you really have to try and relax.
Thanks, Chris. That's just fantastic. Yeah, like obviously you don't want to, in the same way you don't want to work for someone who is your kind of textbook sort of, you know, textbook manager essentially. Like you want to have someone who's got that personality. You want to work just as you want to work with someone like that. They want to work with exactly the same. Yeah. They don't want the trainee that just repeats lines like you're typing it into search on Google.
That's the downside at the moment in recruitment in across the world, is the fact that assessment is there and assessment doesn't, like exams, right? I'm dyslexic. I was really bad at exams, right? And I think I put that down to bad results, but it wasn't down to that, I'm sure. But because of dyslexia, I really underperformed in exams. I really didn't like the pressure of it, and I didn't have the right mechanisms to go into it as well, right? So it's just really important that you can try and just relax and get the most from it. And we will do our best, we promise, to make you relax, to make sure it's not too stuffy.
Thank you. I'm just conscious of time and I want to get to the questions. So we have one last thing that we just wanted to cover off before we launch into the questions. And that's just from both of you. What advice would you give to someone who's struggling with their employability skills at the moment, you know, during lockdown? What advice would you say? What message would you send? Chris, should we start with you for this one, and then we'll move back to Grace?
Yeah, I mean, it's simple. I've mentioned it before. Positive mindset, without a doubt. Right now, guys. Positive. I went through 3 jobs when I was younger. I went through in a day. I went through 3 jobs in a day, and the 3rd job that I got, I was in for 4 years, and it set my career up. You know, and it's about being tenacious and just going for it. So keep positive.
Yeah, and I guess same for me, just echoing kind of what Chris said. Another tip would kind of be maybe consider more niche roles. So as I mentioned, we had over 120 different placement roles. Some of them had the most bizarre titles that can look really off-putting. And we know that you know, we kind of do analysis on how many applications each role gets. We know that the roles that say engineering or HR or marketing are really popular. We then have some roles that have got quite unusual titles, and it seems to put students off a little bit. And you read through the description and you're a bit like, oh, don't know what that means, not going to apply. So that is something that is worth considering. You know, if you're struggling to find a role, maybe consider some of these more unusual roles. Reach out to the employer and ask, before you commit to doing an application and taking some time, maybe just drop an email to the recruitment team for that employer. I'd be happy to receive an email from a student asking more about a role. It can be very difficult on an advert to kind of express what we actually do within our function, and it's only when you get to the interview stage and chat to the hiring manager that you really get a good flavour for what that role involves. So that's something that Cummins will be working on going forwards, trying to kind of promote some of our more unusual roles. They're still really exciting and will give you really amazing opportunities. So I'd definitely say that as a tip. Just go out there and have a look at some of the more strange sounding roles at different employers, and just ask questions, learn more, find out, is that something that could be of interest here? So that's something definitely worth considering.
That's fantastic. Thank you, both of you. So let's stay positive, keep an open mind, ask questions, go out there, be proactive, and don't self-censor yourself out of anything, because you could be capable of absolutely anything. I'm going to start with our question list, and I'm just going to go down these in order of popularity. I think we've covered a couple of these already, so I am sorry if I don't read your question out. But the first one we've got at the very top, which I think is a very easy one to answer, I'm just going to leave this open to Chris and Grace. Please just chip in and answer as you see fit. Do you look at LinkedIn profiles? That's the first question. Who wants to start?
I don't.
You don't want to start.
I know every employers are different, but not something that we do for our early careers roles. We might get into LinkedIn when we're looking for some of our more professional roles, higher grade management roles. But for early careers, placements and graduate roles, it's not something that we particularly look at.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, when I was running stuff at Dyson, we never looked at it from an engineering point of view, which wasn't relevant. And where I'm at 3 now, I don't got time. No, we wouldn't, right? But you have to be on LinkedIn to see the opportunities out there. You have to, if you're interested in 3 or Cummins or whatever it may be, if they have a presence on LinkedIn, get on LinkedIn, follow them, make sure you're understanding the kind of content that's coming out of the company, because you'll get announcements of when jobs come live, and you'll know a little bit more about their culture, and it helps you with your research. But would we go through everyone's LinkedIn profile? No. There
we go. I think that's it's perhaps when you're later on in your career, I think is more the time that people start to use it. And there are some, I think there are some professions that perhaps use it a little bit more than others, because it's a networking thing and all that sort of thing. But yes, thank you both of you for really sort of solid, straightforward answers. We think we've covered a little bit about what we can do to build on CVs. So the next one we have is, how should we go about finding extracurricular experience? I know we've touched a little bit on this already. Who would like to sort of suggest how people can find extracurricular experience?
Yeah, okay, if that's right. So that's from Pan. I think that it doesn't have to be like you've got to go out and you've got to go work in a bank or in an office and get work experience. I think in before the pandemic, that was seen as the thing that really added value, because you're getting this corporate experience. But I just think it's about extracurricular, right? Extracurricular, what does that mean? It means like basically doing your free time, right? So what do you do in your free time? Just do things in your free time that are a bit different and show that you've got tenacity. And although that mindset we talked about earlier on, I don't think it needs to be working in necessarily an organization, but I would, hobbies, things that you like doing, make them examples.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I guess I kind of echo that. Just keep things really simple. I think sometimes there can be this misconception that employers are always looking for like star candidates that have done something really awesome, they've built something and it's amazing, or they've created, this new business or this new app or whatever it might be. Just keep it really simple, but make sure that it's good. You're doing good things. You're putting your spare time to good use. So you might go on Facebook and you might have where you live a community forum or a community group. Go in there and have a look at what's going on. Does somebody need some help with something? Is someone struggling? And as Matt mentioned earlier, is there any way that you can volunteer and help with food or help drop some medicine off for somebody. That's awesome things. That's something that really shows you're a genuine, nice, caring person. You're going above and beyond what anyone expects you to do. So it doesn't have to always be something massive. Just think of the really simple but effective things that you can be doing.
Thank you. I think that, and that's a really important message as well. At the moment, a lot of people get social media envy, and you know, particularly during the pandemic, because everybody seems to be doing everything. You know, it's, well, I'm sitting at home and I'm coding for drones that go and automatically build wells in Africa. We've just about solved the whole water crisis on the continent. Yeah, like, no, not everybody is doing that. Like, you can keep it simple. You can keep it a little bit, you know, just keep it local, keep it something that's attainable, something that you can do and that you can enjoy doing if possible. Thank you to you both. I think it's really useful advice. The next one we have is an interesting one. So it's, in an application, what is the best way to get things like a positive mindset and initiative across? So that, you know, most skills can be targeted with the STAR technique, but mindset and positivity, I'm not sure. Chris, do you want to start with this one? Because you started off with initiative and positivity.
Yeah, thanks, Emma Cowan. That's an absolute bang question. Really good question. So I think you can. So positive mindset, can you get that across? You can get that across in your CV with regards to positive language, right? So positive language, not talking about excellent all the time and all the rest of that, but you're talking about something can just have a positive mindset to things. It doesn't have excuses in it, right? That can come across as positive mindset. Initiative comes across in the CV by, as you say, examples of where you've taken your initiative. Back to Grace's point, where giving examples of what you have done and where you've gone above and beyond. So that's that. I think can most skills be targeted with STAR technique? But yeah, so as I say, STAR technique very much is around structure of an answer, right? So if I said to you, talk to me about a time when you've been at your most positive and what outcome did it have? You would think of an example where you've had to be really positive, maybe in really difficult situations where you've brought people along by being positive, and you use that STAR technique to structure how you give that answer. But fundamentally, just trying to wrap that up, mindset and positivity really come through when we assess you through an assessment centre.
Yeah, and I guess kind of my perspective on that is positivity might not come across as much on a CV, but certainly passion and enthusiasm, you can get that across. You know, you might have a statement at the top of your CV, you know, a personal statement. You might want to include a couple of lines about yourself or why you're applying to that employer. Just take care when you're kind of tailoring your CVs. We've had CVs through in the past, and it says, I'm really enthusiastic about working for whichever employer, and it's not Cummins. So, you know, we completely understand that you are doing CVs, and we really understand it takes you guys a lot of time, you know, to apply to us. We appreciate your interest in your applications. Just take care when you're doing those applications. Try and show your enthusiasm and your passion. Make sure you're getting the information correct. You know, if you're saying you're enthusiastic about working for Cummins, make sure you get the information right that you're giving us on that CV. But you definitely can show some passion on there. But kind of, as Chris said, the real connection between the CV and your personality will come through at those assessment days. And we've seen the opposite effect before, and recently we've seen it. We've had some amazing applications come through and CVs, and you know, we've kind of looked through it and said, gosh, this candidate is awesome. They've done everything. They've got so many different skills. And then when we got to interview, it didn't match up. And that can be really disappointing then. And we'll really try to get things out of you with interview questions, and we'll encourage you. And if we can see you struggling a bit or you're a bit nervous, you know, we'll try and help you out. But sometimes it's just not there. And so, you know, make sure that what you're putting on your CV, we know you want to dazzle employers, but just keep it genuine as well, and keep it, you know, make sure it fits with your personality and your style. So we just, as Chris said, we just want to see you. We just want to see the real you, and that will come across when we get to the assessment stage.
Thanks, Grace. I think it's really like one of the things that I think is good with these webinars is that you do remember that the employers you're going to are real people. And you know, I think there's a kind of an assumption that everything's done by an automated computer, and it never really, you know, by the time you turn up for the interview process, the decision to be made. But it's not. People are there. They want to communicate with you. They want to see that there is a connection between what you have on paper and what you have in person. Yeah, I think these webinars are a great way of doing that. We can all see who you could be talking to, or who you could be applying to, and hopefully the people who are listening to this can identify with that as well. We're just segueing into the kind of interview process. Diamond asked, what qualities would you like to see during the interview process? Grace, do you want to start with that, because you've just been talking a little bit about what you see when people come to you in person?
Yeah, I guess it totally depends on what role you're interviewing for, but we just want to see that you're genuine. Going right back to what Chris said at the start, whether you're introvert, extrovert, it doesn't matter. And sometimes we can see students, particularly now we've been doing the virtual interviews, it can be really daunting and really scary, and it can be hard for your personality to come across. So we're definitely not expecting to see, you kind of all singing and all dancing. We just want to see that what you're talking about is genuine and you've got that passion for it. And you don't have to be kind of coming at us with bags of enthusiasm, that you can just tell when somebody is interested and passionate and genuine about what they're talking about. So if you are going to talk about something that you interview or use a particular example, make sure it's something that you know about, you're comfortable talking about, and it's something that you're interested in. And yeah, like I said, we're looking for a logical thought process. So this is particularly important if you're applying for a role and you're not coming from that background with your degree. So again, just using engineering as an example, if you're coming from a different STEM degree, just kind of, we want to see that you can think logically and clearly and kind of put the steps in place to get to the answer. We don't expect you to come in with an engineering knowledge. We know you haven't done an engineering degree, but we just need to see that you can use the skills that you've got in your degree and transfer them to whatever role. So that's quite important as well.
Thanks, Grace. Chris, how about you? What do you look for when people are coming to your interview?
That resonates actually, Grace, definitely. I think again, you're going to get asked, you're going to be reviewed, you're going to be looked at from regards to a values point of view, a competency point of view. So you really need to know the company, right? So if you go prepared, preparation is key, right? Why did you when you're going to an assessment centre or you're having a telephone interview, you're being telephoned about something you've applied for, right? So you've put thought into it that you want to do it. If you can't back that up when you're on the call or in the assessment centre to show why it's you, I want this, right? Not that I've got 6 other assessment centres, so hurry up, let's get a move on, right? It's this, I'm here because I want this, okay? Make us feel, and we hopefully will you, that this is what I want. Okay, and you'll get that will be passion on them in the moment. Totally agree on the point Grace made around logical thinking, the way that you structure, the way that you think. You haven't got to come up with a solution, but the fact that you like problem solving or you really go for it, that's really, really important. The fact that you're not arrogant, the fact that you listen, right? You'd be amazed, right, at assessment centres, because you're in this like pit, aren't you? And you all feel like you're competing with everyone. So when you get like to a group exercise, you used to do lots of like assessment centres in Vodafone for sales, and these guys and girls would just get in there and group exercise, go, and they would all be going for it. And it was always the ones that listened, the ones that didn't say much, nodded, listened, took everything in, and then when it came to their turn, said something that was insightful, that performed far, far better than those that are the extrovert. I'm on the whiteboard, I'm controlling it, I've got timekeeping. It doesn't matter. So just go for something you really want and prove that you want it. I think that's really important.
Thanks, Chris. The theme coming through, you need to be genuine. And I do think that can be a thing with assessments. There's a need whenever you go for a job interview to be confident. But I think that if you're pushing that too hard, it can come across definitely in the wrong way. And that's when you kind of start taking control and it gets a little bit, it doesn't show who you are as a person as much. We've been, because I'm looking at how long ago these questions came in, so I know they're done in order of priority, but we have kind of covered extracurricular activities. We've covered a little bit about important skills, and how I think the next one that we have, I don't think we've really covered, and I think it's quite a good one to mention, is from Louise. How recent does a graduate need to be? And are people who graduated a few years ago at a disadvantage when applying for a graduate job? I'll leave that open.
Oh, sorry, Chris, go on.
Go on.
No, I was going to say it's a really good question, and it's something that I kind of thought about before I actually joined this webinar, because I kind of wanted to have a look at what graduate roles we've got left, and as I said right at the start, we only have a handful of roles left for graduates, but we do have other roles on our website that are totally appropriate to someone that has graduated. So don't be put off if a role doesn't say the word graduate in the title. We've got a role that's just come up at our Huddersfield site within engineering, and it's not a specific traditional graduate role, but it is totally suitable to someone, you know, that's just graduated or graduated in the last few years. It's quite an entry-level engineering role, and it's got the potential to kind of build up, you know, you can go further in the business with it. So that would definitely be a tip when you're looking for different employers. Don't be disheartened if they are not advertising graduate vacancies, because they will likely still have some kind of early careers, you know, early professional roles that are still suitable for you.
Is that Louise Walker's question? Yeah, okay, cool. Louise, just, you know, at 3, I don't know it's for everyone else, but at 3, apply. If you're interested and you like it, get in the mix, apply. Because you've got to be in it to win it. I know it's cautious, but you've got to be in it. And I think that if you've graduated already in the last 2 years, for example, apply, right? And are you at a disadvantage? No, you're not. No, you're not.
Thank you both. And I think it's just the one little note there is that if you're applying and you've done your research, you should know if there is a cutoff, because I think there are some schemes that perhaps will say, you know, we're looking for anybody who's graduated in the last 2 years, and it's very explicit and it's on the front page, and you know that if you've gone and you've looked at the job vacancy. But if it doesn't say that, as Chris says, apply. You've got the option, you're there, you've got the right skills, just go for it. I think we've probably got time for just one more question. And I think it's another one from Louise, and I think this is quite a nice one to finish on. In your hiring experience, is there a candidate who really stood out for you in the recruitment process? And if so, what was special or different about them? Obviously, we don't want to breach any GDPR here, so no names, no none of that sort of thing. But is there someone who stood out to you, and could you say why they stood out? What was special about them?
So we have recently had a candidate, and again, to try and protect anonymity and not give too much details, they had a very good CV, lots of content on there. They did a presentation. We held like a mini assessment centre, and we watched the presentation. They definitely weren't the most kind of out there, singing and dancing kind of candidate. They were very logical and very clear. They took the time to talk us through the presentation. They clearly answered the question. And then an interview, I didn't interview this candidate, but the feedback from the interviewers was that this candidate was the best they had ever interviewed, and the only candidate they had ever had that had scored full marks. Which we were all like, wow, tell us more, or like, how has this happened? And they just said the candidate kind of listened to the question, took a pause, and then really thought carefully about their answers. They didn't just kind of panic and blurt loads of information out. They were detailed. We hardly had to probe any further into their answers. They gave such depth and such content. So I think that's definitely a standout candidate for us. We were just kind of blown away by everything. They were obviously very knowledgeable about Cummins. They'd done the research into the role that they were applying for and Cummins in general. They were talking about their experiences. They weren't just kind of making an experience up on the spot. They were talking about genuine, important things that had happened to them and reflecting on them. So yeah, that's definitely a standout one for us.
Yeah, that point around obviously doing the research, the structure, that really resonates with top candidates in general. I think we had a candidate, we've had good and bad, but there were some real shockers. Who haven't, and that's no disrespect, it's because they haven't thought about it. They've put no effort into it at all. They haven't really tried. They just rocked up. It's a waste of everyone's time. But the ones that have really excelled, I would say, obviously what Grace has said is bang on in most cases. It's good advice. But for me, it's about being bold. It's about doing something. One candidate came in and did a presentation about a very serious business topic and did it in Lego. Brought a whole bag of Lego in and just started talking through the structure of how they're going to build their first 90-day plan through Lego. And that was at 3. That wasn't even at Dyson or an engineering thing, right? That could backfire so badly, right? So badly. But she came in, she did it, and they walked straight out to my team and were like, we've got to hire her. She's absolutely amazing. Because she was bold and she was genuine that she thought it was going to work, and she went for it. And I wouldn't advise being bold in everything, but if you really want something, it's go big or go home, isn't it, sometimes? And she went for it, and she was fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
Thanks. That's a really interesting example, and it is one that you have to be so careful with, because you do hear about, I think there was the guy who was looking for a job who posted a billboard, and in the coming months there were so many people who'd done exactly the same thing. You think you just jump in on the bandwagon, like it doesn't come across as bold or something you believe in now. This is just it's a gimmick that people are going to employ. You've got to be careful how you do it. And I just wanted to pick up on something Grace said about taking a pause, with a candidate taking a pause before they answer a question. And it's something that it is worth watching people who are really good kind of public speakers do. Take that breath, take that kind of moment just to process what they're going to say. And the one that springs to mind, actually, Barack Obama always used to do that as well. He was obviously he was a lawyer, so he'd probably coming up with arguments in front of court, always had that pause, and people mocked him a little bit for it, because he always had those long pauses in his speeches and long pauses before he addressed anybody. But it means that he's considering what he's going to say, and it's something that I think is really useful to interview. If you're going to come out with something, make sure it's really, really good, and thinking about it is really key. I think we have run out of time. I just want to say to you out there listening, if this has been useful, please do pop your thank yous in the question box, because that's always really good for everybody to see. Just the very last thing, if I could start with you, Grace, if people want to find out more about any of the things you've been talking about, or get in touch with Cummins, where would you like to send them to?
So our vacancies are on the website, which is careers.cummins.com. But I can see there's lots of questions in the chat box there that we haven't got to, so I would be more than happy to have any separate conversations with anyone. So if you would like to email me, my email address is grace.gill@cummins.com. So please reach out with any questions that you have that we haven't been able to answer.
Thank you very much. And Chris?
Yeah, cool. So 3 go live with all of our UK and Ireland roles, over 45 of them in total. From the 1st of March. Our application window will be open for the full month. So you've got 4 weeks to apply, get in early. As I say, there'll be opportunities for technology, commercial, marketing, HR, and there's a really varied amount there, and they're open to anyone that's actually thought about what they want to do and why they want to join it. It's a cool place to work, and we look forward to seeing if you're interested, and thank you for your questions.
Thank you very much to both of you for joining us for this webinar. And to all of you out there who are listening, thank you for being so engaged and for asking such sensible questions. The best of luck with your job hunt for the future. But I think for now we have to say goodbye, and we'll hopefully see you in the next one.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.